For our first panel discussion of the day, we're joined by a moderator whose insight and experience make him the perfect guide for today's conversation. Please welcome Mr. Achin Khanna, Managing Partner, Strategic Advisory at Hotelivate. Achin heads the firm's strategic advisory practice. His experience in the consulting field ranges from feasibility analysis to strategic consulting both in India and internationally. Gaining valuable experience across professional roles in the hospitality industry, he has made him a highly sought-after industry expert. Joining him on stage as panelists are Mr. Dimitris Manikis, President, Europe, Middle East, Eurasia, and Africa at Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Mr. Philip Barnes, Chief Executive Officer at Rotana. Mr. Sandeep Walia, Chief Operating Officer, Middle East and Luxury, Europe, Middle East, and Africa at Marriott International. And Mr. Vincent MICCOLIS, Managing Director, Middle East and Africa, Turkey, and India at the Ascott Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming them on stage.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Gentlemen, pleasure to have you. Let's get right in, shall we? So let me begin, ladies and gentlemen, by making mention of the fact that we had, I know we had Vincent, we had Sandeep, and we had Dimitri on one or more panels last year as well. And we'd got a good conversation going on a couple of topics that we thought we should touch on again this time. So I'm going to bring some of that up, fair warning. Philip, welcome as well. And with that, let's jump right in. This is a senior leadership panel, so we're going to talk about a variety of topics. But let's get going with a macro question. Dimitri, I'm going to start with you.
Everybody has notes. I'm panicking. I'm the only one. Have you got notes?
No, I haven't read them.
Oh, you haven't read them? Okay.
And neither do I have GLP.
Yeah.
So let me remind you, Dimitri, at this very same panel last year, you shared two things. One, you mentioned that the Greeks invented hospitality.
Which is true.
Which is true.
Which is true.
And credit to you.
Yeah.
And two,
not to me, to the Greeks.
To the Greeks,
yeah,
why not?
Yeah.
And you made a mention of two interesting quotes from a Zulu colleague of yours a bunch of years ago. One was, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu. And the other was, be first, be fast, or be food.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And you said
I'm glad that somebody remembers what I said.
There you go. And I remember you also saying that you made these your mantras in life, and that's how you run your organization and your teams. Yep. My question to you is, share how these gospels have helped you grow Wyndham, say, in the last year.
Look, good morning, everybody. So apparently, what's cooking is not in fashion anymore, because what we heard earlier, nothing is going to be cooking. We're all going to be slim and sexy and cool.
Eating pills.
In pills. Manav, are there pills to grow hair? Have you got any insights on that? No? Okay. So yeah, how do we do it? I guess we live in such a fast world that the mantra of being first, be fast, or be food is actually a way of life in so many different things. But I actually reversed it in what we provide to our guests. So yeah, that's a business mantra. But what we realized, and I don't know if the guys agree, but the guests are actually want the reverse. They want to chill. They want something which is more easy pace. The more, Manav gave us a very disturbing entry on geopolitical challenges and what is happening in the world. Actually, it all benefits hospitality, by the way, because the more is happening around the world, the more people want to travel. There's going to be 1.6 billion people that are going to travel this year. Why? Because of all the things that Manav said. Now, if you look at the be first, be fast, or be food, or if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, I think this is the way we're all brought up in our lives, right? You gotta be in it to win it. You gotta compete. You gotta be there in order to have a fair chance. So that's what I said to my team. It doesn't matter if you don't always win, but you have to be there. You have to be in that game and play that game, because there's no other way. Because then you just you're just not successful, and that's not acceptable. On the Be First, Be Fast, Be Food, I think the last year we went into branded residences, and we are doing a phenomenal job here in the Middle East. We've already signed 3 standalone and mixed-use branded residences in the mid-scale. We have another 5 or 6 in the pipeline, so that is a segment that we didn't have. You know what Sandeep and the rest of the guys here have. We didn't have that capability, but in a year's time, we've actually developed a great team. The team here in Dubai led by Govind, has done a phenomenal job getting us there. So that's one thing. In 1 year, we managed to be a player in that space. The next thing is that we managed to diversify our offering. We are growing very fast in countries in the CIS. I believe the CIS, which is Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Georgia, are destinations that have enormous potential for us. So in the last 12 months, we've actually taken a leading position in every single country over there. And most importantly, one thing that I am more proud than anything else, at the latest survey that we've done in our staff, 92% of our staff across Europe, Middle East, Eurasia, and Africa said that they're very proud to work for Wyndham. That, to me, is the most important thing that has happened to me personally as a leader of that team in 2025. Because no matter how good you are, no matter how great your brands are, no matter if you're number 1 or number 10, when your people are saying that 92% they are engaged and they love to work for the company that you represent, to me that's a great win. So if you look back, yes, expansion, new products, new services, but that particular statistic and that survey actually made me more proud than anything else.
As it should. Splendid. Thank you. Sandeep, Dimitri mentioned an interesting number, 1.6 billion movements expected. That's almost 20% of the world's population. So clearly, and the region that you oversee is also large. My question to you also stems from our chat last year. And I remember you saying that you gave grave importance to the concept of situational leadership. And it was, for those in the audience, what Sandeep spoke was of the need to balance being hands-on as well as strategic. You've taken on, and congratulations, a much more expanded role recently, and alongside your regional responsibilities, of course, and you're therefore now wearing multiple hats in luxury, lifestyle, and emerging markets. I'd like for you to please share some thoughts around how you're going to plan to balance the scales, welcome these 1.6 billion folks across the various geographies and the various positionings that you're handling.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I think a big thank you to Manav and the team to bring it together. So if we can give a big hand to Manav, if he's in the room. I agree, and I think I continue saying that it is situational leadership. I mean, end of the day, 2-3 thoughts to reflect on that question. One is, it's all about the people you have. I think you mentioned as well, and I think we have a great team. We have Kareem, Jaydev, Pooja here in the room from our team. And I think it's leaders like those who kind of really make it easy for self to be taking on more. Because at the end of the day, it's they're kind of leading the different markets and you're bringing it all together. And one certainly needs a good balance between being on the floor and yet kind of making sure that there is a strategic decisions being made. So we do today in the geography that I look after, we have in Middle East Africa, we have about 420 open hotels and 240 in the project stage. From a luxury perspective in EMEA, we are going to be touching 200 hotels and by the end of this year in Europe, Middle East, Africa. And then branded residences, which Manav spoke about, is also another very big growing business for us. Yeah. It's a lot in Middle East, but we're seeing it get into Europe. It's a lot in the luxury space, but it's getting into the premium segment as well. We have about 82 projects today. And half of them are still in the making. So they're in the project stage and some are open. And I think all of them bring their own benefit. But with the latest, thank you so much for your congratulations on the design hotels, where globally we have about 320 hotels. It's also growing a lot. But all this is only possible with all the great leaders that you have. End of the day, it's a very people-led business, and that's what makes a difference. But it's also about making sure that you have the right people and leaders, but also two words that come to my mind. One is empowerment, and the second is an enterprise kind of a mindset. So often what happens is I find that in businesses you have, when we talk about empowerment, people look at your boss and saying, what should I be empowered on? And the people who report into you as to what should I empower them. But I think success would be that empowerment is happening across the department, across, it's not even vertical, but it's horizontal as well. And that's how, or that's the only way we can continue to grow and be in places where we want to be. And I've had that whole mindset that it's either we win or none of us win within the company. So I think that's going to be something which is going to be a very big focus for us to continue kind of having that culture of empowerment and enterprise. And I don't think it's only about hospitality, it's about any business. If we all need to succeed, we will have to make sure that we do that. And the last would certainly be that at the end, whether we are owners, developers, operators, we need to have, I say this often, that we need to have the brain or a head of an entrepreneur, that we need to make sense for our owners who are investing, our developers who are investing, but also have, end of the day, that heart of an innkeeper, because we can't forget our business. End of the day, that's where the money will flow in from. So you need the brain of an entrepreneur, but the heart of an innkeeper at every sphere to kind of make sure that the business grows. So if we all bring this together, I'm positive that we'll continue to grow, and I'll be able to do what I want to do.
I'm going to stick to you, Sandeep, for 10 more seconds before I go to Philip. You know, you spoke of empowerment, and you spoke about Pooja and Jaydev and your team over here as well. You also mentioned how people, therefore, enable these successes. If I may say so, the other thing Marriott's known well for globally is strong processes and creating standard operating procedures and actually winning on the back of that. And sometimes making sure that's as important as the people. Would you take maybe a half a minute more and talk about some of that as well and how that may enable your successes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as you grow, and there needs to be consistency across all the brands, right? I mean, the most, I give you an example. So I was with our president, Satya, about, I think it was a few months back, we were in Saudi. It was an opening of a select brand. It was 4 Points by Sheraton, and we went there, and a great on-strategy opening in Jeddah. And the owner comes up to him and says, oh, we have a problem. And I said, okay, there goes my career. I was proud of this opening, and we had the president there. And he said, these guys, your team doesn't listen to us. And he says, okay, what are they not listening? Let's make this happen. And he says, I've been telling them that I need more valets and more people to carry luggage for our guests to the room. And we need to get more associates out here to kind of help at the entrance, as well as more people in the restaurant. Now, that's not really the idea of a select hotel. I mean, I'm not saying the services need to be low, but a guest who would then go to a 4 Points in the US or would go 4 Points into Asia would be disappointed. Yeah. So we would not be fair to that brand. A St. Regis or a Ritz-Carlton needs to be same whichever continent you go to or whichever city you need to go to, or a Marriott or a Sheraton or Bulgari or whichever brand you take. And therefore, that consistency across all the brands is important. And that's where, to your question, the processes are key. On the other side, on the flip side, maybe we'll talk about design a bit if we have time. But design hotels globally, the idea is not that. In fact, it's the whole idea is to have a bit of a tension of that every hotel is different. Yeah. It's localized, it's design-led, it's owner, who we call originals, it's led by them. And therefore, there might be differentiation and very individuality. But overall, brands need a consistency. The owners need to know what they're investing in. The guests need to know what they are going for. And therefore, that's important. Therefore, the processes come in. So yes, people need to be empowered to do things, but within that space.
Indeed, indeed.
For sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandeep. Philip, thank you for being on the panel with us. Your brand and your organization needs no introduction in this part of the world. But what I'd love for you to speak of is a two-part question. Rotana, we all know her, is deeply rooted in the Middle East. one, how has this regional DNA become a competitive advantage for you? And two, conversely, do you also see sometimes this perhaps as a bit of a limitation?
It's a good question. I get asked this question all the time. I need to be very clear. I'm in a very different place from either of my two colleagues here. I'm in a family-owned business that is owned by an Emirati family. When people say to me, what do you do? I say, I work for an Emirati family. And that family is the DNA of Rotana. They are the people who have brought the brand to life. Even this week, I had the chairman with me in one of our hotels, meeting with the owners when they launched a new product that was coming into play. And there's a very deeply personal component to Rotana that I think is one of our greatest strengths. It comes through not just in those regards, but it comes through in our DNA. You talk about how people feel. You talk about how proud they are to work for an organization. And we have people who've been with us 10, 15, 20 years because of that relationship with the family. And when I first joined Rotana, which was 2 years ago now, I knew this was a strength, but I had no idea how strong it was until I'd been with the company for a short while. And I got a chest infection. Quick sidebar here. Chest infection, I had to stay home for a few days. And the chairman's daughter, a young lady by the name of 𝗍𝗂𝗹𝗻𝗀𝗀, who's now the United Nations ambassador for tourism, she wouldn't leave me alone. She was calling every few hours. Do you need food? Can we get you a doctor? And everything else. And I was talking to one of my colleagues at the C-suite level, and I said, you know, 𝗍𝗂𝗍𝗃 wouldn't leave me alone last weekend. He said, that's normal. That's what happens when you work for Rotana. You become part of the 𝗲𝗈𝗍𝗀 family. So that is our greatest strength, is our DNA. We are a family business. We are deep-rooted as a family business. When you talk about are we disadvantaged in any way, I think we're not disadvantaged because really the reality of it is that DNA goes far beyond any geographical borders. So we're already operating in 14 countries. We're expanding into more countries. But we're taking that DNA with us. And for me, that is our greatest strength. As I'm going around talking to our GMs, I'm asking them, what are we doing? How are we expanding upon that? Corporately, to go back to your point about empowerment, corporately we have process and policy and procedure. But my whole mandate to the GMs is, if you can do better, if you can see ways to improve upon it, do it. There is no corporate mandate holding you back. If you find yourself in a situation whereby you have an owner who feels you should be taking a different approach, and you agree that that's the right approach in that environment, take it. Yes, I want brand strength across the board, but I want it coming from our DNA. Yeah. I don't want it coming from anywhere else. And having that message go through consistently, and going back to the chairman, I mean, I love him to death, but he drives me crazy because every time he goes out and he visits one of our hotels, he comes back and he has a vision on something that he's seen. He may have a comment about the hummus. He may have a comment about the success of the hotel from a financial standpoint or the service standards. He's all the way across it, and that is our strength. And he takes it everywhere he goes. You know, we just opened in Mecca, and it was a very difficult opening. We literally had a month from the time that we signed the HMA to the day that we opened the doors. And in less than 3 months, we'd achieved a 5-star rating in there. We have achieved a tremendous level of success business-wise, but it's because of that DNA. And it carries on through. And it's where the pride comes from. It's where everything stems from. So I'm not concerned about going anywhere that we choose to go. But I will say that we're not in a hurry to go to places that we can't get to geographically. Sure. Right? We're not trying to expand to the point of having 2,000 hotels across the world. That's not our goal. Our goal is to make sure that every hotel is successful in its own right, in its own destination. We've got a very different situation in that we are 53% owned by the 𝗲𝗈𝗍𝗀 family. So I don't have to worry about stock prices. I don't have to worry about growth of brands. I don't have to worry about putting pins on a map. I have to worry about having successful hotels across the board, which is a very different model from many of my friends and colleagues in the industry. Indeed.
Now, well said. Thank you. Vincent, over to you, and I'm going to mention our chat last year as well. You'd spoken, let's talk numbers, because I think you are regionally as well, responsible for getting that growth going. You had 5,000 units last year, you mentioned, with an aim to reach 10,000 in the years ahead. How has that progress been in the last year?
Thank you, Achin, and very glad to be here again this year for the second THINC in Dubai. Compared to Philippe, my worries are very different, very extreme. I work for a listed company. I mean, our company, the Ascott Limited, belongs to a very prominent real estate company called Capital in Singapore. So yeah, we do worry about the growth because it impacts directly the share of the company. So the focus is really for us on the growth. So we've been quite big, and we are quite big in Southeast Asia. I was discussing also with Filipinos as well in Singapore. This is where it's all started for us like 40 years ago now. It started with service apartment mainly. This is our core business, or used to be our core business, but now we're really going into multi-typology, and we signed different kind of segments over the years, like hotel, resort. We signed a very massive resort in Ras Al Khaimah last year. So last year was a very good year for us globally. Globally, we signed about 19,000 units, which is good. It's a kind of a 27 year-on-year growth, which is staggering numbers for us. So it was across 102 properties globally. So it was through, of course, a usual asset-light model. We went a lot of conversion as well. And as I said, we went into some higher fee segments, such as resorts. And as I said, we signed a big one over here in the region. So for us, is to continue that growth. I mean, we are now at 176,000 units globally across about 1,000 properties operating, of course, and under development. We are present in more than 40 countries. A lot of presence, of course, in Southeast Asia and China, Europe, and of course, we're going to talk about this region as well. And altogether, about 250 or nearly 250 cities globally. So very strong momentum last year, as I said. It was a record year. In the region, because you were talking about the regions, and that's my concern, I cover Middle East, Africa, India, Turkey, you name it, whatever they don't want to do, they give it to me, basically, in Singapore. Yeah, good momentum here. Good momentum. We are actually now in line with the target that we had set for ourselves. We touched the 6,000 units, and we're about to close now a few more lead deals, in the next few months. So we should be about 7,000 units in the region between Middle East and Africa. So the growth really is steady. And the target that we have, the team now, is really to continue the growth year on year, 20%, to reach the 15,000 units by 2030. That's the target I have by 2030. So the expansions have been, of course, through the usual countries here, the UAE, Dubai, as I said, Ras Al Khaimah was big for us as well. Saudi, I think our model is, our flex hybrid model is working very well in Saudi for us. We're about to announce some big signings in Saudi in probably 1 or 2 months to come. So the other market has been quite well for us is Africa. Africa, I'm very proud of it. We started with 0 like 4 years ago, and now we've got 10 properties in Morocco. Nice. So Morocco, very close to me. I mean, Francophone countries. I've been the _Citadines brand is working extremely well there. It's Essence is a French component of the Citadines. Is doing extremely well there as a apart hotel. But also we've deepened our presence in Kenya, Nairobi in particular, Ethiopia, doing well. And last year we also signed in Nigeria. Our first franchise, it's the second property altogether, but the first franchise property in Nigeria. So the deepening in Africa is happening. And of course, the strengthening in the region also is there for us. And I think it's only starting. I think our model, our flexi hospitality models, flexible, this flexibility works very well in the region. I think we're starting to be very relevant. People get to know us, and it's very aligned with all the new mixed development happening in the region, and this kind of a new generation of cities that we can see building, whether it is in Saudi or even here. So, as I said, overall very, very positive, and I think it's only the start.
Good, thank you. And you spoke about the flexible model last year as well. We'll chat about that some more. Okay, Dimitri, I'm going to shift gears, no pun intended. Raise your hands in the audience, if you will, please. Formula One fans, how many F1 fans do we have in the audience?
Only?
Not a big number, surprisingly.
Huh? What are you?
Okay, I'll tell you why I mentioned. Last year, Dimitri compared the Middle East hospitality market to the testing ground for Formula One. And that was an interesting analogy you took when you said new innovations come to the Middle East to get done. And this has become the testing ground for the world where hospitality reinvents. And my question to you is, what has Wyndham dabbled with, say, in the last year from an innovation standpoint? What was the new card that came out?
Yeah, look, I mean, if you look what is going on around the world, Formula One, which I'm a great fan of, everything that you see in car production 5 years later actually started 5 years before in Formula One. This is the test drive of all innovation in cars. I do believe, I'm a strong believer that in the Middle East, and especially UAE and Saudi, that's the Formula One of hospitality. There's so much innovation going on in this place that it's mine. I mean, it just drives you mad because you're like, will I ever be able to bring this to Europe? Food waste, energy, you know, the way you present the product, the way you publish the product, the way you, I don't know, advertise the product is completely different here. We've learned so much the last 5-7 years from what is happening here that is completely frightening. Can we actually deploy this to the rest of the world? Because if you see some of the projects just right across the street, right? I mean, will you ever be able to have the same products anywhere else in the world? So all of this creates a lot of anxiety to the rest of the world, but at the same time, there's a lot of, on the Formula One analogy, there's a lot of interesting things that you can learn, things that you don't want to do.
Sure.
Because there might be innovations that do not work either. It's not that every innovation works. It's not that every idea is a great idea. So having these countries or this region as a test drive actually helps us all to say, you know what, that actually worked, but that didn't.
Yeah.
And what I'm really surprised, and this is it's a positive surprise, is how people actually change their course. Yes, they are focused on their plans, they're focused on the strategy, but look how Saudi is actually reinventing itself in the last 5 years. They had a plan, they stuck to the plan, then they saw the plan needs to be readjusted, they're readjusting the plan. Here, they've got a different plan, they had to readjust the plan, and what is interesting about the UAE, everybody in that Formula One world, they have their own place. You know, Abu Dhabi is culture, Qatar is sports. Then you've got Russell Kamer with gaming and you know, Wynn coming in and the Branner residences. You've got Dubai, which is gastronomy, it's play, it's entertainment. So no one is actually competing with each other, and that to me is such a great ecosystem that is built here.
Indeed,
we've got so much to learn here, but the challenge that we've got, especially in the West. And that's, to your point, in the West, we don't even have guests. Forget about people to carry people's luggage. In the West, my local coffee shop in London had to shut down because there's not enough people to work in that coffee shop. That is the problem that we have in the hospitality in the West. The West is losing, unfortunately, the battle of hospitality because people do not see hospitality as a career progression. The more people leave hospitality, the less service is provided. So when you see what is actually happening here from a Formula One again analogy, we cannot deploy the same model in the West, especially in Europe. Why? Because we cannot compete. Yeah. That's why we have to find new ways to compete. I don't know what the secret sauce here is, but definitely there is a huge difference between what is happening here versus what is happening in Europe.
Before I move to Sandeep, I know your favorite hotel company. What's your favorite F1 team?
I really like. Yeah, what is it? I don't know. I'm kind of like a Ferrari fan. I've always been. I'm old enough to kind of remember how Ferrari, what a great team it was. And okay, they're not the best team now, but I'm sticking to what I was grown up with. So Ferrari would be my number one choice.
Good choice. Okay, Sandeep, I'm going to go to the branded residences question now because I know it's a big theme for the region. There is also, excuse me, there's an entire panel dedicated later today to that, but specific to Marriott, my question to you is, branded residences, as you know, continue to grow in the region, but from an operator's lens, what separates a successful branded residence from one that dilutes the brand's overall ethos over time?
I think, first of all, branded residences, like I mentioned earlier, are doing very well, right? We kind of started to see this. I think the business really was a lot in the US, where it all started, and then we've started to see it come into Europe, Middle East, Africa, but more in Middle East currently, and then I think it's going to move to Europe. I think there are 2-3 things to be broken down here. I mean, if you look at it, one, for the developer, it's a great business. You're getting a premium on what you would be selling otherwise. The speed of selling is much faster because of it's a branded residences. And I think the Europe model is continuing to continue to grow because a lot of, with the cost of capital the way it's going, the returns, especially in markets like Europe, the hotel projects will make sense or are making sense in terms of return if they have attached residences, which then gets in the investment or partly pays for the hotel. So I think the whole ecosystem then works very well. So I feel it's going to continue to grow in Europe for sure. If you look at it, for us, it's clear there's a, we are able to get, let me say, guests who like to be at the W or a Ritz-Carlton or St. Regis or Bulgari and kind of creating their own space, which is their own home, and having a branded residences. And of course, it's a business model for us too, and there's good fees. And then in terms of the buyer, he or she is getting a guaranteed space in which he or she needs to live. So I think it's a win-win situation. But partly to your question, I think we all need to be careful that it shouldn't get overly commoditized in the sense that, with due respect, we're kind of seeing all kind of branded residences come with different brands.
Sorry, I'm interrupting, but do you think that's happening? Is it getting commoditized?
Not yet, but I think it's stretching to the boundaries with some of the brands. Now, for example, for us as hoteliers, we have a structure, we have brands, but behind those brands, we have brand teams, we have operators, we have, if it's co-located a residence with a hotel, we have the general managers and the whole team there. And even if it's independent, it's linked to the brand. There is a whole team working behind it, which is going to continue, because the issue might not be today when we are selling the new branded residences. It's going to be 20 years later when the product is old and if it's a hospitality company, and maybe I'm speaking for all of us now here on stage, that you have brands which are going to continue. We're going to be there to back up. There needs to be service too. It's not only about putting a logo on the building. It's going to be the service. It's going to be the people. It's that whole hospitality to come, which I was saying. You need to be, you have to have the brain of an entrepreneur, a businessman, but that heart of an innkeeper or looking after people needs to continue. So I think that's going to be an important piece.
Sure.
In the branded residences. But we clearly see an opportunity. As I mentioned, we have about 80, 85 projects, 30 are open, and they're doing very well in the luxury space where it started with our brands, whether it was co-located or independent, but we are starting to see it move into premium brands as well now, because as the middle class grows in different parts of Middle East and Africa, there will be demand for branded residences in the premium space as well.
In fact, Dimitri, before I go to Philip, you made mention in the previous comment about branded residences becoming relevant for you as well in this part. Yeah. Incidentally, boasting a little here, we signed something with you 2 days ago for a client of ours.
Oh, did we?
Yes, we did.
Did we? Oh,
yeah, congratulations.
Congratulations.
But my question to you is, how many do you have now? It's very recent for you, is it?
No, I mean, look, we started, to Sandeep's point, the inspiration of the middle class is where the world is going, right? There's more middle class coming into India, China. These guys, they might not be able to afford, I don't know, a Ferrari, but they will be able to afford the BYD.
Sure.
And by the way, we talk about brands and so forth, and I fully agree with Sandeep. The middle class and how that premium world is playing is where we, as Wyndham, we see our future.
Sure.
Because 150 million middle class in India, millions of people in that middle class in in China, how Africa is coming up. In the next 10 years, that middle class in Africa is going to be the new players. And guess what? Their inspiration is travel and ownership. And they're going to buy product, and they're going to buy brand residency. So we need to be in that space.
Agreed. Thank you. Philip, I have two questions for you, differentiated from each other, but I want to park both of them. Number one, you spoke about this being a family-run business at heart, and how growth would be strategic and not just opportunistic. But strategically, are there regions outside of this part of the world that you're now focusing on? South Asia, Southeast Asia, perhaps? That's question one. And quickly, the other part is, do you believe, sticking to the concept of branding, do you believe we may be heading towards some kind of brand fatigue in this part of the world with the sheer number of hotel brands that are coming in?
Two good questions. Going outside the region, my view on this is very simple. We are very close to our properties. We're operating in 14 countries. The geography to us is very, very important. The ability to get to hotels, the ability to play a part in what happens with the hotels, to support the teams, to support the general managers and their teams throughout the process. You know, I've worked for a number of companies over the years, and I remember distinctly working in Australia, and my chairman saying to me, "Oh, I'm buying a hotel in London." And I said, "Great, who's going to look after it for you? Because I'm not going to spend a week going backwards and forwards between Sydney and London to look at a hotel." We have to stay close. We're not, we don't have a huge infrastructure like the large brands do. So we have to stay close to them. But having said that, there are a number of strategic alliances that we have looked at and continue to look at that will allow us the opportunity to go further, right? In accordance with the partners that we see and have identified that can allow us to do that. But at the end of the day, it has to be about delivery. It has to be about the success of the property. It cannot just be about putting a pin on a map. I am not interested in that in the slightest. That isn't going to be to my benefit, it's not going to be the benefit of the company, and it's certainly not to the benefit of either the owners or the team on the ground. So that to me is the critical piece. In terms of brands, I personally believe, I stood in front of a stand at a hotel show not long ago, and there was a stand there, and there must have been 35 brands on them, and I'm in the business, and I didn't know what 20 of them were. So if I'm exhausted, I believe that the customer is exhausted. And, you know, it's all very well to put a brand on something, but there has to be an authenticity to it. It has to be genuine. It has to be real. It can't just be, well, we've got an idea that this is a good name, and we're going to stick that on this building and make a success out of that business. The brand has to mean something. You know, I spent 10 years of my life working for Four Seasons. They have never deviated from that approach. They are, in that regard, the most successful company because they know, you know exactly what you're going to get. When you start to get away from that, and we have 8 brands, all right? And we're going through an exercise this year of revisiting all of those brands to understand exactly what they mean to us, what they mean to the customer, what they mean to the owner, to be sure that we are actually achieving what it is that we set out to achieve by putting them together. So it's a long answer to a short question, but I think you've really got to put yourself in the shoes of the guest. And if it doesn't mean anything to the guest, then I don't care what you say you are, right? It's irrelevant, right? And I, like everybody else I'm sure in the room, has gone through that process of trying to understand what a particular brand means. Then you walk through the door and you go, well, what is this? How is this different? What is it? What is the actual meaning? What is the authenticity? Where is the DNA of this brand? And that is, to me, is the most critical piece, is to have a DNA.
Dimitri and Sandeep, before I go to Vincent, do you agree? Counter thoughts? Or?
I'm more senior age-wise because he's got the bigger title, so I'm going to start. Look, Phil, 100%. This is a big conversation that is happening everywhere. Do we have enough brands or do we have too many brands? I'll talk about mine. If you ask me today to name all 26 brands of Wyndham, I will probably miss at least 10. So, and please don't ask me because it's going to be very embarrassing. So that's one. Second, Ramada has been around for 77 years. Howard Johnson has been around for 55 years. Super 8 has been around for 50 years. Days Inn has been around for, I don't know, 65 years. Brands stand the test of time. There is only one person that decides the future of the brand. Past, present, and future, the consumer. That's it, period. No matter how many brands we have, no matter what we create, the consumer, when they say book, that's the critical point. If you look at the automotive industry, BMW has what? X1, X2, X3, X4, X5, X6, hybrid, electric. Why? Because we don't live in a world that consumers only wanted one thing. So, yes, I get it, and I agree with Phil in a lot of the conceptual point, but at the same time, the brands are there because they serve a purpose. If they don't serve a purpose, they disappear. Yeah. They don't stand the test of time. That's one thing. Second, I wanna kind of like, because I go to conferences, a lot of people say, oh, you know, the big companies and the big brands or whatever. Yesterday, they've done, again, I'll speak for Marriott, if you allow me for 1 second, record high on their share price. And actually, that makes me very happy. You know why? Because the pension fund I pay my pension to, they are shareholders of Marriott. Most of you in this room, you're probably paying in a pension fund that actually buys shares of Marriott or Wyndham for you to secure your pension. So it's not growth for the sake of growth. It's not growth just to put pins on the map. It's growth because we have a responsibility on our shareholders and the people who trust us with their money to grow. Now, do we always do it right? No. Do we always get it to a point that everybody's happy? The answer is no. But we try very hard. We try very hard because we have a responsibility, not to one family, to thousands and thousands and thousands of families who have bought shares through their pension funds, and they want us to grow because that's what pays their kids' college. Sure. That's my position. And when everybody asks me, why are you putting more pins on the map, or why are you doing this? Because I have my own family, plus friends of mine, they actually bought shares in a pension fund that owns Marriott or Accor or Wyndham or whatever, and I have a responsibility as a leader to actually make sure that those families have enough money to pay for college.
Yeah, and I think and both points are mutually exclusive and both are true.
100%. 100%. Huge respect to owning families, and there are amazing brands out there that are owned by families. Huge respect to Rotana, what they've done, but equally, the two of us, we equally have a responsibility to thousands of families, right?
Yeah, not because I want to be diplomatic, but I would agree to both of you, actually, in the sense that...
Okay.
I think we have over 34, 35 brands now. Yeah. And I think for us, I'll be able to name all the brands. But
no way.
Keep it for another day.
No way. Okay, that outside. Yeah, we'll take that outside.
Yes. But I think it is about what you said. It needs to be authentic. Each brand needs to be authentic to what it stands for. And it goes to my previous point. A Ritz-Carlton in one city or one country needs to be the same as another. As we grow, I think it is upon us as operators to make sure that the consistency and the authenticity of the brands continue. But is there enough brands? Would we have more brands? I would say yes. We need to look at something in the wellness space, for example. And I don't mean spa, I mean a proper wellness brand. And we are looking at what we would be doing in that space. So would we do more brands? Yes. But they need to be true to what they stand for. They need to be true to the segment we are looking at. And to your point, there needs to be an authenticity, a culture. And there's a broader culture for Marriott, but it needs to be each individual brand standing for itself.
And you bought Citizen, right? You bought Citizen, which is a great brand to add to your portfolio. You do acquisitions as well. It's not just organic, right?
And I think, if I may just, there are a few questions popping up from all of you, but I would just pick up one and just connect to this one, and that's the loyalty program. And I think that, somebody has put a question here saying, are loyalty programs still relevant with so many apps coming out. I think for us, when we look at the different brands of Marriott, that's one common umbrella brand.
Yeah.
And we say it's a brand of its own, Marriott Bonvoy. We are 271 million members today. Now, when you look at 271 million, that's like population of few countries, UK, Italy, Germany, and I could continue. If you put about 7, 8 countries, that's the population of that number, 271 million. That has a power, and I don't think, first of all, to answer that question, that it's in any way fading. And it's in every segment. There are people who are staying for business who want to use those points they've accumulated for a break with their family and reward the family for the fact that they could travel and work outside. Even in the luxury space, when we look at it, about 68–70% of the people in the luxury space going to our luxury brand, staying in a Ritz-Carlton or St. Regis, enjoy having a link to a loyalty program. It will look different. It does look different. It is not only about points, but there it's more about the fact that what are the experiences one could be giving with those points. So they may be using those points more for experiences which nobody else can buy. They have been maybe curated. So I think it's different with different segments, but for sure, I think loyalty programs are here to stay, in my opinion.
Thank you. I'm going to want to bring Vincent in. We're going to run out of time soon. Vincent, hotel brands, hotel apartment brands, serviced apartment brands, branded residences, serviced residences. I can keep going on. There's a few more adjectives to add. It's confusing, to say the least. And I would imagine if we were to pick somebody out from the audience who's investing in hospitality, an owner over here, he or she would have the same question. How do you define? And you dabble in most of these spaces, if I'm not wrong. Would you try and clear the air a little?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a good point, Achin. The lines are getting very, very blurred. But at the Ascott Group, we're not kind of chasing conversions. It's about clarity of role. Yeah, you're right. We do operate service apartment, hotel, lifestyle products, branded resi also. But I think what's crucial for us, it's being intentional. We need to, and we are very focused about why we go into a segment and how we can add value. If not, I think it becomes kind of blurry. So where we play really is at the intersection of the hospitality and the residential items, where an operating platform has to be there with a strong brand. And I fully agree. I mean, it has to be an authentic brand that can deliver long-term value. That's key for us. Where we don't play, I think that's quite essential for us, is that in that transactional, residential model, whereby the brand is merely a logo without any operating platform. Yeah. So that's key for us. I mean, we want to make sure that we enhance, the quality and experience from the guest viewpoints for any kind of asset we go. So for us, it's not so much about having blurred lines or having, confusion or anything. It's more actually well-defined lanes that we know we operate with kind of a focus, dedication, and discipline. And I think when we talk to owners, I think we explain that, and we try to partner with owners. We have the same view, same vision of sustainable, return, rather than a short-term position in partnership. We've had situation, okay, let's put your brand there and we'll get the premium. We don't do that. Yeah. When we really focus, and that avoids us to be completely diluted in the market, and we want to be relevant and to touch a wider, kind of audience because of all the brands we have. But I fully agree that the number of brands and how authentic, and I think more than that, they have to serve distinct needs clearly. And this is what we try to do, rather than trying to be everything to everyone. I think that's the focus that we have here in the Ascott Limited Group.
Yeah. Thank you. We have 2.5 minutes. I want to squeeze 2 questions in quickly if I can. Philip and Sandeep, perhaps to you, in this age of artificial intelligence, the Sophia, the robot, ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatnot, technology promises, no doubt, hyper-personalization. But hospitality, Sandeep, you said this, it's human at heart. Where should technology stop and people take over?
Yeah, I think 2 things. One, technology, I think it's a big enabler. It cannot be replacing what we are doing in the hospitality sector, but it is a big enabler. It is for the same person who is talking to a guest in a hotel to be able to get even more time to talk to that guest or engage more, because the back-end job or work is being made easy by technology. So I think it's more an enabler for people to have more time with the guests and engage and look after them and have those personal interactions, talking about authenticity you spoke about and creating. So I think there, I certainly feel there's a big role technology is playing and will continue to play. I think what's going to be an interesting space will be how artificial intelligence, ChatGPTs and other channels are going to start looking at bringing in somewhere a cost structure or kind of a financial aspect to it. When it leads to a booking, you're curating your stays and your trip, when it links to where you want to stay and how they're going to start putting money value to that, that's going to be interesting to see. And I think it's a matter of time we're going to see something in that space. So for sure, I'm a big supporter of technology and the fact that it's enabling us, giving us more time to spend with our guests, and certain amount of efficiencies will come in. Again, talking about different brands, I think it is different with different segments. I mean, it's different in the luxury space versus a premium, select, or mid-scale. We clearly see the participation to be a bit different.
Philip, quickly, would you want to add some thoughts to that, or?
No, I mean, we have introduced AI into our new website. It's really helping us. I agree wholeheartedly with what's being said. And when people ask me about AI, I always say the same thing. It's an enabler. It will allow us to be far faster with our bureaucracy and everything else that needs to be done. But what it will not do is it will not smile at the guest, and it will not greet them in a warm and sincere fashion. And therein lies the difference. That's where the differentiation comes.
We're going to take 1 minute above time and give the last question to you, Dimitri, on a lighter note. And this was something I want you to put your imaginative hat on. If hospitality were being invented from scratch today, no legacy brands, no fixed star ratings, no stock market to report into, no traditional hotel formats, what's the one rule you would keep and the one rule you would throw out the window?
One rule that I would keep on hospitality, wow. I think that Sandeep actually said it very well. No matter what we do, we cannot replace the human interaction. I think the beauty about our industry, which when it was invented by the Greeks 5,000 years ago, it is that hospitality was...
By the Greeks?
Yes. We invented hospitality. Does anybody agree? Whoa.
Yeah, agree.
Whoa, yeah, this, whoa. That, I need more time to reflect on that. So, hospitality is an industry for people, by the people. That is the only thing you should never forget. We are blessed. We serve in the best industry in the world. It's an industry that is all about humanity, and in the crazy world that we all live in, it's the industry that brings together people. We are the bridge for peace, we are the bridge for culture, and we are the bridge of, in adverse circumstances around the world, we are the industry of hope. So for me, the word that I would keep and the word that I would have inside the core of what hospitality today is hope.
Hope, indeed. Okay.
You know, I think we are already over time. I think it's flashing there. But I just do want to take this opportunity to thank all our owners who are in this room and not in the room. I think we can all be representing different brands and brand companies and talk about different things, but it's all the investors and all the owners and the developers that really make it easy for us to do the things we do. So a big thank you to all the investors and the developers in the room. Thank you.
Indeed.
And I've never met a happy owner. Have you met a happy owner?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I think, Vincent, we're going to have to wrap this up. Gentlemen, such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.